Okay, everyone. Councilman Slife, City of Cleveland, Ward 17, back at you with some more information about electric aggregation. This is confusing, so please pay attention if you're interested. If you have questions, call my office. But I've been getting a lot of calls wondering about the electric bills and First Energy illuminating customers' bills going up starting in June. So what I want to do is give you more information, give you the updates the City Council has gotten from the City Administration, and then I want you to choose what's best for you. But I want you to feel like you have all of the information necessary to make a good option. So this is applicable to, again, illuminating company, not Cleveland Public Power, just illuminating company. And this, if you all go back in time, this is a copy of my electric bill in West Park from last August. It was the July meter read, the August bill. And you can see up top, it was $212, 13 cents. I'm going to reflect back on this bill, but if you're watching this and you can think back to what your bill looked like last summer, I want to use that as a point of conversation, all right? So what's been going on? Cleveland had previously a variable rate contract with NOPEC. And what happened in 22 is the NOPEC rate jumped, the kilowatt hour charge, and it jumped up to 12 cents. So this bill here was based off of 12 cents a kilowatt hour, which is why it was so expensive. It's apparently also when my kids found where the thermostat was. We weren't wild about that. So Cleveland, we got out of the NOPEC contract, and your rate fell back to the First Energy default rate, which was 6 cents. So if you remember, my bill here was very, very high. My next bill dropped down because we were now at a lower kilowatt hour rate. So what's happening now? The kilowatt hour rate for First Energy is going from 6 cents up to 12.4, currently at just under 6 cents. So we're seeing basically a doubling back up to what we had seen last year. Actually a little bit more, about 0.4 cents more. So what's going on now? Cleveland, the administration of Mayor Bibb has brought to us a proposal to go with not NOPEC, but with SOPEC, a different aggregator with their rate just under 7 cents a kilowatt hour. But this rate won't go into effect until the August meter reading, which is the bill that you pay due in September. So all illuminating customers in Cleveland will automatically go to this 7 cent rate if they're not in their own private contract with a different provider. So stick with me because I want to explain all of the different options here. What should you do? There's no surefire solution, but again, I want you to feel like you're getting all the information you need to make the decision for your household and not just one option without considering other options. These are the scenarios as I understand them, but you have to figure out what works best for you. So the first option is what I'm calling the do-nothing option. Under the do-nothing option, your July meter reading will jump up to that 12.4 cents a kilowatt hour. And I have, again, a picture of my bill, because if you go back and look at your bill from last summer as an illuminating company customer, this is probably a good indicator of what your bill would look like for 2 months this summer at these higher rates. So this would be applicable to the June meter reading, which is the bill you pay in July, and the July meter reading, which is the bill you pay in August. And for the August meter reading, which you pay in September, you'll automatically go back down to the 7 cent rate if you do nothing. This is just sitting on your hands and waiting for the system to play itself out. So these are the rates that we got from SOPEC. And as you'll see, there's 3 rates. They're all 6.9, 6.7, 6.5. The automatic default that you'd go down to is this highest one with what they call 100% renewable energy credits. You could drop your rate even further if you go for 50% or 0%. Now, I did the math roughly. Off that highest bill ever, for me, being at the 0% versus the 100% would have saved me about $4. So that's not where the big savings are. The big savings is dropping out of that 12.4 kilowatt hour rate. So that's the do nothing option. You end up here, but you paid in September. The do something option is a bit riskier. There's a chance, I think, to save money in the short term, but it requires a lot more work on your end. So you got to be up on it. You got to set yourself some alarms. Doing something and then doing nothing after that could actually be really risky because you could end up in some unfavorable contracts down the road. So what you do, if you want to do something, and again, this is up to you, go to this website here, energychoice.ohio.gov, and you want to do it this week because the meter readings start on May 27th. So once your meter reading is done for May, then you're going to be locked into that June rate. So you have to be locked into something before May 27th, maybe a little later, but you're starting to get risky. And you want to look for fixed rates, $0 cancellation fees, and no monthly fees. This is what the website looks like. And you basically just plug in your address, and it gives you all the different options. Again, you want to look for fixed rates, a $0 cancellation fee, and no monthly fees. Because what you're probably going to want to do at some point is get out of this contract, and you don't want to be penalized by canceling it. You don't want any hidden fees and monthly fees, and you want a fixed rate. So remember, the fixed rate is what got us in this in the first place. The rate climbed with NOPEC. You want a standard fixed rate over the course of the contract. So back to my electric bill that was expensive, the $212.13. You'll see 134.04 of it was the NOPEC charge, and that was the kilowatt hours I used, about 1,100 times the 12 cents. That comes out to $134.04. So say, for instance, I do the nothing option and use the same exact amount of electricity this summer. This kilowatt hours times 12.4 cents, that $134 charge would be $138.51. But if I go shopping and say, for example, you're able to find a 6.5 kilowatt hour rate multiplied by the kilowatt hours used, $72.61. So there's savings here potentially. And that would be, each of the 2 months, you would be deriving that savings. Scroll. There we go. So, warning. This is my big warning. Most of these contracts that you find on this website, they have a fixed rate for like a year or 2 years, but after that contract term, you automatically get renewed very often into a new month-to-month contract at a variable rate. So that's the risk of doing nothing. If you wait a year, you could end up being back on this roller coaster of electricity charges when you were trying to save yourself money, and you could cost yourself money in the long term. You don't want these variable rates. You want fixed rates. So again, if you do something and then do nothing, you're putting yourself at risk. If you go shopping on the private market, my advice to you is to be strategic, because you can cancel and you can switch back to SOPEC rate at any time. All you have to do is cancel your contract, hopefully for that $0 fee, or you don't renew it. You make sure you don't go month to month. But the big catch is you won't get switched over to SOPEC automatically. You'll go back to that first energy rate, and you'll have to ask to come into the higher or the lower SOPEC rate. So something to consider is that if you switch to SOPEC, it might not happen immediately. And if you're trying to get away from that 12.4 cent hourly or kilowatt hour rate, you could end up being back on it because there's a lapse in the cancellation of your contract and switching over to SOPEC. So if that's the case, you could arguably be negating all of your savings because the times didn't align as you would want them to. So wrapping it all up, if you do nothing, there's much more predictability, less work, but probably higher costs. But you do wind up with this default rate that has some pretty good sustainability goals. It's a little bit higher than what we're paying right now, but it's where the market is. If you do something, you have this chance to shop around. The lower rates, they do come from some of these bad, like coal and other fossil fuel sources, so that might not be something you personally want, but it requires diligence so that you aren't spending more money down the road. And the short-term savings, may be offset by any higher rates during that switchover period, especially if you're not timing it right. Maybe if it's after air conditioning season and you're using less electricity anyway, it could be strategic. So your path you must decide. I know that's a lot to take in. Watch this video again. Feel free to call my office, and either I or Michael in my office can help you walk through it. But you do have options. But the option, I can't make a recommendation of what's right for you, but hopefully by having a little bit more of an analysis, seeing the SOPEC rates that are being brought to City Council for approval, I hope that that lets you spend the next couple days thinking through what you can do for your own personal finances, especially if you're in Ward 17, where this is your lived reality because we don't have CPP. So thank you to council staff for filming this, and see you in the neighborhood.